Hello, this is Professor Teresa Pelkie. This is Session 6, Part 3, the in and between keywords. In this video, we'll look at two keywords that you can use in a where clause. You may find that using these keywords lets you write simpler where clauses. We'll first look at the in keyword. To understand what this keyword does, let's first look at this example. Here we are selecting all of the countries that are in the Western Hemisphere. We are doing that by specifying a list of region names using several or clauses. There are more countries that can be shown on the slide. As you can see, we have some countries included from each of the four regions: North America, Central America, South America, and the Caribbean. And here we have the same selections. This time, instead of using multiple or clauses, we are using the in keyword. This is easy to work with. You specify the column names that you want to work with, in this case, region. You then specify the in keyword followed by an opening left parenthesis character. The parenthesis can be right next to the in keyword, or you can put one or more blank spaces after the in keyword. Inside the parenthesis, you put the list of values that you want to select. When you are selecting character values, the values must be enclosed in quotes. You must specify at least one value inside the in list. When you have more than one value in the list, you separate the values with a comma. Don't put a comma after the last value in the list. After the last value in the list, type the right closing parenthesis character. The values in the list don't have to be on the same line as shown here. You can split up the list over multiple lines if you want to. As you can see, the in keyword and list of values takes the place of multiple or clauses. You can also use in with a numeric column and a numeric list of values. Now we're going to look at another example of using the in keyword with a list of values. We'll take a slight detour before showing that example so that you'll see exactly what is happening when we look at it. Let's say that you want to get a list of countries where Spanish is spoken. You want the same data that we have been seeing: country name, region, population, and life expectancy. The language that is spoken in the country is not included as a column in the country table. Instead, the World Database includes a table named Country Language. That table contains a list of country codes, the language name, and some additional information. The select statement shown on this slide shows how to get a list of countries where Spanish is spoken. As you can see, this is a select all type of select where the asterisk is used to select all of the columns. Notice that the country name is not shown, just the country code. So we can get a list of countries where Spanish is spoken, but the list is not quite what we wanted. Now we see how the in keyword can help us process a list of values. In this case, the values are not known until runtime. That means that we'll get the values for the in clause when the statement runs. In the earlier in examples, selecting for the regions, we knew the region values when we wrote the statement, so we keyed the values into the in clause. In this example, we are figuring out the list of values when the statement runs. The way we are getting the list of values is by running one select statement inside of another. This type of embedded select is often referred to as a subselect. To understand how this works, start with the embedded select, the one that is on lines 4 through 6 in this figure. The only difference between this select and the one you saw on the previous slide is that we are now selecting just the country code column. We are not using the select all to get all of the columns. The result set of the embedded select contains a list of country codes where Spanish is spoken. Because we now have a list of country codes, we can feed that list into the in clause. Notice that the in clause uses the code column from the country table. So we are telling the database management system to select all the rows in the country table where the code column is one of the values in the list of country code values returned from the subselect. You may have noticed that the column names are not the same. In the country table, the column name is code. In the country language table, the column name is country code. It is perfectly valid to do this. The column names do not matter. What does matter is that we are using the same data types. In both tables, the columns are defined as character data 3 characters long. It would be possible to use different data types if you cast one of the columns to the data type as the other column. For now, we'll keep it simple and just use a subselect where the column that is returned in the results set is the same data type as the column that is used with the in keyword. The end of running this statement is the same as if you had coded in the list of codes inside the parentheses of the in clause. AND, ARG, ABW, and so on. Now with this type of select, it is possible that the subselect might not return any rows. In that case, there would be no values in the in clause, so no rows would be selected. This is in contrast to where you have an explicit list of values. When you code a list for an in clause, you must have at least one value in the list. Now we'll look at the between keyword. As with the in keyword, we'll first look at a select statement that does not use between and then compare it with a statement that does. This select includes all countries with a population greater or equal to 5 million and less or equal to 10 million. As before, there are more rows than are shown on the slide. This is a simple where clause using the AND operator that you learned about earlier. And here you see the same selection, selecting countries with a population between 5 million and 10 million. The between keyword is actually two words, between and an and to join the two values that form the range. You write it just like shown here. You start with the column name that you are using, then the between keyword. After between, put one or more spaces, then the lower value for the range. After that value, put one or more spaces, then the word and. Then one or more spaces, and finish off with the upper value for the range. You need to be sure that you put the lower value first on the left side of the and. The values specified in a between clause are inclusive. In this example, that means that we are including for a population of 5 million or greater within a range of 10 million or less. In other words, between operates like an and clause where you use greater or equal and less or equal comparison operators. You may be wondering how the and keyword works when it is used with between and when you have another clause that is joined with an and. This slide shows you two versions of the same statement, and in fact, you get the same results for each statement. In the top part, the where clause is written without parentheses. When you read through it, you see that we have between, then the and, then another and. You can apply the order of precedence rules to figure out that the first and applies to the between clause, and the second and is a Boolean and that gives us two values in the where clause. The first value is the result of the between operation, and the second value is the result of the life expectancy comparison. The lower part of the figure uses parentheses to enclose the between value, starting with the column name that is used for the between range. When you use parentheses like this, you are not altering the order of precedence. Instead, you are clarifying how the statement is to be interpreted. This clarification is not for the database management system, since it knows how to process the statement. The clarification is for yourself or for somebody else who might have to work with your code at some point. In this example, you might argue that the statement shown in the top part of the figure is clear enough as is. The issue is, you might sometimes have a where clause that uses many clauses. Rather than force yourself or somebody else to have to parse through a long, complicated statement, you can use parentheses to give hints about how it is to be parsed and processed. In the next video, we'll look at case expressions.